Alright, it's day 52 of this Sunchoke series. Be sure to check out my Korean radish and sweet onion series. So we've had a decent amount of growth here, and some of these leaves are doing fine. I don't think I'm over fertilizing. There are at least 5 shoots that are doing really well. There's stuff under there that's coming out too. But as you'll notice, this water is really cloudy. That's because there's a lot of mold. So if you've never seen waterborne mold, it's a pretty nasty sight. But the parts of the tubers that were drying out before, I made sure everything in subsequent days was immersed in water with this hydrogen peroxide in it, and it started fizzing. But it's been taken over by mold. There's a lot of fertilizer certainly that can help the mold grow. So I'm just going to pour this out and wash it off. It seems like the first time you put any tuber in a hydroponic solution, it just molds over. And that happened with the Korean radish. I changed the water next day, and it also happened with the sweet onion series. But no, after 2 water changes, they look really, really clean. So I'm going to dump this filth out. Alright, this is pretty gross. There goes some of the fertilizer pellets. I'm going to touch this with my bare hands. I don't have gloves on, but as you can tell, there's a lot of just nasty goop in there. And it certainly wouldn't hurt to rinse everything off with tap water. Some mold at the bottom as well. Some of that's fertilizer too, just stuck to it, but this thing is pretty nasty. It needs a good washing, and it'll get right back on its feet with a good amount of hydrogen peroxide thrown in there. Geez, this mold has formed like a gelatinous mass around many of the tuber tops. This tuber also really expanded by being hydrated, by being soaked in water for a few days. Alright, I think that's as good as we can do for now. I'm going to put this down, and I think everything in that cup needs to go. It's just too rancid. So we're going to start fresh with fresh water. Fresh everything. Make sure to rinse the outsides as well. And this might not be enough. I might have to do this all over again in 24 hours or 48 hours. So Alright, so look at that nasty gelatinous goop at the top. I'm gonna get some distilled water first and fill this up to a degree, then add some hydrogen peroxide, 3%. Now this is completely arbitrary, but I'm just going by feel here. Might as well make it a little stronger. And I'll fill the remaining volume with some water. For this, I'm not going to worry about fertilizer for now. Maybe my problem was too much, but lack of micronutrients is not a serious problem compared to all this nasty mold and whatever this gelatinous goop is. I'm having a feeling that it's a combination of mold fruiting bodies and fertilizer. So I've kind of shown or proven to myself that maybe the water level can be a little higher. It doesn't seem like the shoots actually die from hydrogen peroxide. Maybe I was wrong all along. Maybe, the real problem is just bad growing conditions, killing shoots, and then converting everything to mold. So this tuber floats a little. It's no big deal. It's floating a tiny little bit, but I'll enjoy watching it fizz for a good long while the hydrogen peroxide tackles and dissolves all this junk. So yeah, that's pretty nasty stuff there. But for what it's worth, I think this project is still going rather well these days. The growth is going to accelerate, and as soon as I have this mold problem taken care of with a few rinses, I think I won't be having problems again, not at least with this nasty mold. Alright, it's day 53. I have no fertilizer in here, no additional fertilizer anyway. And if you look at the consistency of this liquid, it's opaque, a little bit gelatinous. You can see the wispy mold at the bottom. And there's been a little bit more leaf growth, but the top looks pretty gross. And I'm going to dip this toothbrush in here just to show you kind of the consistency. It's an old toothbrush. And there's a lot of mold on the surface, or assuming that's mold. Mix of mold and fertilizer. Anyway, but you need to physically remove this nastiness. It's just all over the place. So it traps air. It makes the tuber more buoyant. That dries out the top. Alright, let's do this. Keep the water cold. I don't want it to be warm because I don't want to cook the tuber. Pouring out all that nastiness. Here's some distilled water. And here's some 3% hydrogen peroxide. Want to make sure the whole tuber is covered. And I think part of the buoyancy problem before was due to hydrogen peroxide itself. It would catch on all those fruiting bodies, tuber itself, and lift it up. But as you can see, the reaction is very swift. You can already see bubbling going on. And the moldiest parts of the upper part of the tuber